week 3 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few running backs I have as sleeper options this week. The first one, D'Onta Foreman of the Cleveland Browns. It seems like D'Onta Foreman always finds a way to get on the field, and he's bounced around the league the last few seasons. A couple years ago, he was with the Panthers. McCaffrey went down that year. He stepped in, was the starting running back, and then he got traded eventually, McCaffrey. Then last season, Khalil Herbert, Roschon Johnson went down for the Bears. He started a handful of games as Foreman. And then last week, he got 15 touches in that ball game. After week 1, he didn't get one touch at all. So week 2 with Jacksonville, it wasn't a good game for Foreman. 14 carries, 42 yards only, and 1 catch for 9 yards. And this week, though, a good matchup versus the New York Giants that got shredded on the ground in week 1 by Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler. And then last week, Brian Robinson Jr. went over 130 yards in that one. So this week, I think Foreman in deeper leagues, or if you've piled up with injuries where we've seen a lot of running backs get hurt in the early going, Isaiah Pacheco, Christian McCaffrey, obviously he's been out. Kenneth Walker banged up. We don't know if he's going to play this week. Joe Mixon nicked up as well a little bit. So I think D'Onta Foreman in those deep leagues or deep flex leagues where you start 2 or 3 flexes can help fantasy owners, and he's available in a surprising still 95% of fantasy leagues. Next running back is Emmanuel Wilson of the Green Bay Packers. So Emmanuel Wilson now the backup with Marshawn Lloyd going on IR with the ankle injury. And we saw Emmanuel Wilson week 1. He got some opportunity. Only 4 carries, but he had 46 yards on the ground. He had 2 catches and 2 receiving yards. And then last week, Marshawn Lloyd was the backup, but Wilson still got 5 carries. So Josh Jacobs, he had a heavy workload, 32 carries in the week 2 victory versus the Indianapolis Colts. Jordan Love, 50-50 to play in this ball game, but we'll see what happens. But either way, I think Wilson will get some touches. Like I said, Jacobs coming off a big workload, and this is a pretty decent matchup at the Tennessee Titans, where last week the New York Jets had a good run attack at Tennessee. So I think this week, Emmanuel Wilson, if you're in desperation mode and need a sleeper option, I think he could carve out a decent role. In the third and final back I have as a sleepers, Bucky Irving of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Bucky Irving, he's been on the radar since the preseason. And Rachaad White, he just hasn't looked great in the first 2 weeks of the season. Now he's nicked up a little bit with a groin injury, but I expect him to play this week. So the first 2 games of the year, week 1 versus Washington, healthy workload, 11 touches in that one, 9 carries, 62 yards, 2 catches, 14 receiving yards on 3 targets. And then last week at the Lions, still got 77 carries, 22 yards. So Bucky Irving, he can catch the football out of the backfield. He's a smaller back, but in between the tackles, he looks like the more efficient back to me than Rachaad White. So I think there could be an opportunity where Bucky Irving keeps getting more work as the weeks go on, and Rachaad White continues to struggle. So Irving's still available in 66% of fantasy leagues. And if you need a deep sleeper option and someone who's going to get some work, I believe one way or the other, Irving's the guy this week. So that's a few running backs I have as sleepers for week 3 of the fantasy football season.